From striking gold to sinking a 20-ton truck, Tommy BEETS is facing an insanely costly disaster on Gold Rush, and time is running out to fix the mess. Tommy has a big problem. His 30-acre settling pond is completely clogged with silt. If dirty water spills into the nearby creek, environmental authorities will shut him down. And that's a risk Tony just can't afford. With no choice left, he orders the wash plant to be shut down. Settling ponds are meant to clean out the muddy water from the mining process. The deeper they are, the better they work. But right now, Paradise Hill's top pond is full and silt is clogging the culvert, making the water murky. If they don't fix this fast, the whole operation could grind to a halt. To solve this, Mike and his crew need to raise the days and make the pond deeper, giving the silt more room to settle. They bring in a specialty side dumper truck dumping loads of dirt while Mike levels the road with a 11 dozer. It's a tough job, but shutting down for a couple of days is better than losing the whole season. Then disaster struck. Over the radio, a voice crackled through, saying, "I just tipped the side dump on the dike for the first time ever. A truck has flipped at Paradise Hill with a full load of dirt. The truck's back tire caught the edge of the dike, slowly pulling it down until it toppled over. Takes first time I ever southeast had a truck here flip. Now a 10-ton side dumper is hanging off a 15 to drop dangerously close to sliding into the pond." Mike wastes no time. He brings in his 220 excavator and tries to pull the truck back onto the road, but the chain is under massive stress and the truck still wants to slide further. It's just too heavy. Time for Plan B to double the lifting power. Mike brings in a massive 480 excavator rated to lift up to 20 tons. The process is slow, the pressure is high, and the flies aren't making things any easier. They need to find just the right spot to lift before the whole truck goes under. Mike decides to give it one more shot, lifting the truck using both excavators at the same time. The idea is simple: double the power, double the chances of getting the truck back onto the road. But as soon as the machines start pulling, it becomes painfully clear that it's not going to work. The truck is just too heavy, and there's barely any room to maneuver. The weight is pressing down at an awkward angle, and no matter how much force they apply, the truck refuses to budge. At this point, Mike is running out of options. He considers detaching the trailer, thinking it might make things easier, but the problem is that's not a simple job. Disconnecting it would take extra time, and with everything already behind schedule, that's the last thing they need. Right now, every wasted minute is a lost opportunity to mine gold. They got every corner cable hooked up, so if they do it right, you should pull right out of there. And Tony isn't known for his patience. Meanwhile, the rest of the crew stands around watching, knowing they can't move forward with their work until the truck is out of the way. The dike needs to be raised, the settling pond needs to be deeper, and the plant needs to start running again. But none of that can happen with a 10-ton truck hanging over the edge of a 15 to drop. And then there's Tony standing off to the side, arms crossed, watching everything unfold. And if there's one thing that's obvious, it's that he is not happy. It's been over 24 hours since the operation shut down, and not a single ounce of gold has been pulled from the ground. That's an entire day of lost profit. The pressure is mounting, and with no clear solution in sight, Tony might have to make a tough call. Tony's entire operation is at a standstill with the trauma offline and the plant shut down. Gold recovery has completely stopped for a mining crew. There's nothing worse than equipment failure, bringing everything to a grinding halt. The longer this truck stays stuck, the more money is slipping away, and there's no telling when things will be back on track. Mike manages to make some progress. He gets the trailer pulled out of the hole, stopping it from bending under its own weight. It's a small victory, but the real challenge is still ahead. The truck itself is still stuck, and getting it out isn't going to be easy. Mike looks at the situation and starts thinking out loud. I was hoping to just get the whole thing to come down over, he says, suggesting they try to pull the entire truck back onto the road in one move. But before he even finishes his sentence, Tony cuts him off. "That is stupid," he snaps. And just like that, the idea is shut down. Tony knows this needs to be handled carefully. If they rush it and something goes wrong, they could end up making the situation even worse, possibly damaging the truck beyond repair. Right now, it's going to have to be a bit of twin process here. I have to find another spot on this truck where I can lift to the best. Option is to disconnect the truck and trailer, pulling them out separately. If they can remove the pin, the truck won't move anywhere, making it easier to haul out each piece one at a time. But even that won't be simple. They need to bring in an excavator from a different angle, making sure it has enough leverage to pull the truck free without putting too much strain on the frame and the chains. They need to be tighter than before, because the last thing they need is another failed attempt. The crew is tense. Every second feels longer than the last. The sun is getting lower in the sky, and time is running out. If they don't figure this out soon, the entire day will be lost. And Tony isn't the type to tolerate delays. Mike took charge of this situation, making sure everything went as smoothly and safely as possible. He told the crew to let him handle the directions while they focused on holding steady. It was just the safer way to do things. With everyone in position, it was time to try flipping the truck. At first, the excavator pulled, but the heavy vehicle barely budged. They needed more force. Mike told them to give it another go, applying more pressure. The tension and the chains increased, and after some struggling, it became clear the truck and trailer had separated. That actually made things easier, because now they could flip the truck upright on its own. Before dealing with the trailer, Mike wasted no time. He moved to flip the 20-ton truck first, making sure everyone stayed back. This was a critical moment, and if anything went wrong, it could be dangerous. The excavator started pulling again, slowly but steadily, as Tony watched closely. Mike checked to make sure everything was clear from the front before giving the all clear. "What's this up? I'll do the directions, you just hold," say as waves of fear. That way the chains tightened. The truck groaned under the strain, and it finally began to tip. But something wasn't right. Tony didn't like the way it was moving. He called for a quick stop, telling the team to adjust before going any further. But then before they could make those adjustments, the truck suddenly tipped over much faster than expected. It came dangerously close to the excavator, way too close for comfort. Mike barely avoided a collision. It was a heart-stopping moment, but once the dust settled, Tony brushed it off. He was confident. He knew exactly where the truck would land. With the truck now back on its wheels, it was time to move on to the trailer. Tony laid out the plan, flipped the trailer, hooked the truck back up, and then tried starting it. The team got to work repeating the process, but this time things went a lot smoother. In no time, both the truck and trailer were upright again. Now came the big test. Would the truck even start after all of this? The end engine had been through a lot, and there was no guarantee it would fire up. They turned the key, waited a moment, and then it roared back to life. Finally, after nearly 2 full days of delays, the truck was rolling again. Tony didn't waste any time. There was a lot of work to catch up on, and the pressure was on to make up for lost time. With the truck back in action, the dike repair was officially back on track. Meanwhile, there was another big concern: the amount of gold they were pulling in. For the past week, only one wash plant had been running the TRL at Paradise Hill. To reach their season goal of 5,000 ounces, they needed to be collecting around 200 ounces per week. It was time to weigh the gold. One by one, the numbers started climbing: 80 ounces, then 90, then 100. It kept going: 110, 120, 130, until a final count landed at 14,358, worth of over $350,000. It wasn't enough. Tommy knew that more was always better. They needed to step up production if they wanted to stay on track. That meant longer hours, faster work, and no more delays.